My ex-wife called me a loser, then saw me winning the lottery live on TV. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. You're a loser, Jake. You always have been, and you always will be. Those were the last words my ex-wife, Melissa, ever said to me in person. Not during our divorce mediation or on the day she left our apartment for the last time, but months later, outside a grocery store. She said it loudly, for everyone to hear. I still remember the way her friends laughed behind her, like some high school clique, and the way I stood frozen, keys in hand, cheeks burning. She wanted me to feel small. It worked. My life had been unraveling since the divorce. Melissa got the car, the cat, most of our friends, and, maybe worst of all, my confidence. Our marriage hadn't ended with a bang, just 1,000 little humiliations that built up until I barely recognized myself. Jobless, sleeping on my brother's couch, drowning in bills, I heard her voice in my head every day. Loser, loser, loser. Flash forward. The night everything changed. The universe, for once, threw me a bone. I watched the lottery numbers, my only guilty pleasure, my hands shaking with a half-torn ticket between my fingers. Each number matched. All of them. I laughed, then sobbed, then sat in stunned silence, surrounded by the glow of a cheap TV and my brother's empty pizza boxes. A week later, I stood on a stage in front of blinding studio lights, my name called out on live TV. I was holding an absurdly large check. The crowd cheered. Flashes popped. And in the audience, in the front row, her face white as a ghost, was Melissa, jaw slack, phone trembling in her manicured hand. She watched, helpless, as I grinned for the cameras, a loser no more. But as the confetti settled and my phone buzzed with hundreds of new messages, I realized, a lottery win doesn't erase the past. It only magnifies what comes next. Because Melissa wasn't done with me, not by a long shot. The next morning, my phone blew up like it never had before. Calls from numbers I didn't recognize, social media requests from people who'd ghosted me for months, and texts from old friends I hadn't seen since college. It was like a dam broke, and suddenly everyone remembered I existed. But none of them made my hands shake like Melissa's name lighting up my screen. She didn't call, she sent a message. Melissa, congrats, Jake. I always knew you'd get lucky eventually, winky face. Wanna talk? I stared at those words for a long time, fingers hovering over the keyboard. My gut twisted. Was she mocking me? Trying to crawl back? Or just making sure I'd seen her in the crowd, watching my loser moment flip live on TV? I ignored the message. Or tried to. But everywhere I turned, news feeds, group chats, even the damn radio at the corner store, it was all about Jake the lottery guy. Some local tabloid ran a side-by-side of me and Melissa, rehashing our split, quoting her old social posts about moving on from toxic baggage. I wanted to crawl under a rock. Then, late that afternoon, there was a knock at my brother's door. I opened it expecting reporters, but there she was. Melissa. Same expensive perfume, same perfect hair, same sharp smile she wore the day she called me a loser. Can I come in? She asked, voice syrupy sweet. Just to talk. My brother shot me a warning look from the kitchen, but I stepped aside. She made herself comfortable, glancing around like she was appraising the value of my misery. She wasted no time. I made mistakes, she said, crocodile tears sparkling. I was angry. I shouldn't have said what I did. But maybe this is a second chance for both of us. I stared at her, heart pounding with old pain and new suspicion. Was she here for me? Or for the money? And then she said it, her voice barely a whisper. I still love you, Jake. Let's start over. My phone buzzed on the table. Another message, this one from an unknown number. Careful who you trust now. Not everyone wants you to win. Melissa lingered in the living room, her eyes bouncing from my brother's thrift store furniture to the lottery check propped against the wall. She reached for my hand. Old muscle memory, but I pulled back, too stunned to play along. I could see the calculation behind her mascaraed lashes. Could she sell the old love routine, or did she need a new angle? I've been thinking about us, she said, voice trembling in all the right places. The way things ended was ugly. Maybe we both made mistakes. She offered a tentative smile, the one that used to melt my anger in seconds. Let's have dinner, just to talk? I want to show you I'm not that person anymore. My brother appeared in the doorway, arms folded. Jake, you sure about this? His eyes darted between us, wary. He'd seen what the divorce did to me. He'd also seen how quickly people changed when they smelled money. Melissa bristled. It's none of your business, Chris. This is between me and Jake. But that was the problem. It was never just between us. Not when my phone kept buzzing with interview requests and strangers asking for handouts. Not when Melissa's friends were already liking my new posts and tagging her in memes about glow-ups and karma. I agreed to dinner, curiosity warring with suspicion. She picked a place I couldn't have afforded last year, a trendy new spot downtown, full of mirrors and polished marble. As we sat, she laughed at my jokes and reminisced about the good times, her hand on my arm, her eyes glinting every time she mentioned the future. Then she leaned in, lips grazing my ear. You deserve better, Jake. Let me make it up to you. We can travel, buy a new place, start a family, for real this time. Just us. But even as her words washed over me, my mind echoed with the warning from that anonymous message. Not everyone wants you to win. When the check arrived, Melissa didn't even glance at it. She just handed me her card and smiled. My treat. Your family, after all. I realized then, maybe I was finally seeing who she really was. The next morning, I woke up to find my social media flooded. DMs from people I barely remembered, new family, crawling out of the woodwork, and even a few journalists digging for a story. But it was Melissa who pressed hardest, texting nonstop. Good morning selfies, old photos of us in better times, inside jokes she'd never bothered to remember before. At first, it was flattering, a balm for wounds she'd left raw. But soon her messages turned strategic. She sent me links to luxury condos, hinted at vacations we could take together, even forwarded a brochure for couples therapy to heal old wounds before we start our new chapter. The subtext was as loud as a siren. Now that you're a winner, let's rewrite our history. Chris, my brother, kept his distance but never held his tongue. You think she'd be here if you were still broke? He asked one night, dropping a stack of takeout boxes on the table. She left you when you had nothing, Jake. Don't let her back in just because you've got something she wants. I wanted to believe Melissa had changed, that the pain and humiliation were over. But every interaction felt like a negotiation. She'd laugh at my old jokes, then slip in questions about the winnings. She'd cry about her loneliness, then suggest how secure she'd feel with me again. One afternoon, I overheard her on the phone in my kitchen, her voice sugar-sweet and cold as glass. Don't worry, I'm working on it. He's vulnerable. This time, I'll get what we deserve. My stomach turned. She hung up when she saw me, flashing a bright, brittle smile. Just my mom. She's excited for us. That night, a new message arrived from the unknown number. Trust is earned, not given. Watch your back. Melissa curled up beside me on the couch, humming an old song we used to love. But her eyes were on the TV, not me. And as I watched her, I realized, winning the lottery had given me more than money. It had given me a second chance to see the truth. A week slipped by in a blur of interviews, paperwork, and Melissa's relentless campaign to slide back into my life. She tried everything. Cooking my favorite meals, posting photos of us from the old days, with captions about fate and forgiveness, tagging me in memories I'd tried to forget. The world was suddenly fascinated by my story, and Melissa was determined to star in the sequel. One evening, she surprised me with a date night, the restaurant where we'd celebrated our first anniversary. The place had changed, but her act hadn't. Hand on mine, wide eyes, apologies for the past, and grand plans for the future. We can start fresh, Jake. You and me, unstoppable. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand just a little too hard. You're not a loser, Jake. You're a miracle. I see it now. Her words were honey, but there was something hungry behind them, something that chilled me. After dessert, she pulled out a ring box, a twist I hadn't expected. Let's not waste time. Will you marry me, Jake? Let's make it official before the world tears us apart again. I stared at the ring, heart pounding. The proposal was so public, so sudden. The crowd around us held its breath, phones out, filming. Melissa leaned closer, whispering, "Say yes. Don't embarrass me." Time slowed. I thought about that anonymous warning, about Melissa's whispered phone call, about every time she'd called me a loser and meant it. Was this love, or just another performance now that the stakes were higher? I met her gaze and forced a smile. Can I think about it? She blinked, surprised. Then her grip tightened, just for a second, before she let go. As we left the restaurant, a stranger pressed a folded note into my hand. I waited until I was alone to open it. The lottery changed your luck, not your instincts. Don't let old wounds ruin your new life. She's not the only one watching. Melissa's proposal hung between us like a storm cloud. Her friends blew up my phone with congratulations. Her social posts painted us as a fairy tale reunion, and even my own family seemed confused. She's trying, my mother said, hope flickering in her voice. Maybe people really do change. But late at night, when the house was quiet and the world's eyes weren't on me, I kept replaying Melissa's threat under her breath. Don't embarrass me. It didn't sound like love. It sounded like a warning. Meanwhile, the messages from that anonymous number kept coming. Each one sharper, more urgent. Watch your bank accounts. Ask her where she was the night you won. Check your phone. Look at the photos from that night. One evening, curiosity and paranoia got the best of me. I scrolled back through my camera roll, past screenshots and news articles, until I reached the night I won. There, buried in the background of a blurry selfie, I caught Melissa at the bar, talking to a man I didn't know. They were close, her hand on his arm, her eyes bright with something I hadn't seen in years. That same night, my bank sent a fraud alert. Someone had tried to access my new accounts. I changed passwords, called the bank, but the feeling of being hunted wouldn't go away. I confronted Melissa the next morning. Were you at the bar with someone that night? She bristled, too quick to smile. Just friends, Jake? Why don't you trust me? I didn't answer. That evening, my brother Chris cornered me in the hallway, his voice low. I heard Melissa's been asking around about your lawyer and the payout schedule. Jake, be careful. The world thought I'd won the lottery, but with every passing day, I felt less like a winner and more like the prize. And as I lay awake, phone in hand, a new message appeared. You're closer to the truth than you think. Don't let love blind you, especially not to her. Tension coiled tighter with every passing day. Melissa grew impatient. Her texts became clingy. Her moods flickered between seductive and icy. She started dropping not-so-subtle hints about joint accounts, just for convenience. Every time I dodged, she played the hurt victim for the world to see, spinning our relationship online into something picture-perfect and fragile. But offline, the cracks were widening. I found myself triple-checking locks, watching the shadows in my own house, second-guessing every word. Chris was my lifeline, quietly watching, always nearby. You don't owe her anything, he reminded me. You're not who she says you are, Jake. Then, the break came. My lawyer called. Someone had tried to impersonate me over the phone, asking for wire transfers and access to confidential tax forms. The bank flagged it. The caller was a woman. Melissa denied everything, but her alibi was as shaky as her smile. That evening, I followed the anonymous tip and dug deeper into the photos from the night I won. There, behind Melissa and the mystery man at the bar, was a lottery clerk, someone I remembered from childhood. It clicked. Melissa knew I played those numbers for years. Suddenly, every memory twisted. Had she known I was close to winning? Had she tried to get in on it before the draw? I pressed her. Why were you really at that bar, Melissa? Who was that man? She turned cold, mask slipping. Maybe I was celebrating. Maybe I was getting over you. Why do you care, unless you're hiding something too? Her anger flared. You wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes without me. Money or not, you're still you. The words stung, but I didn't back down. I was done playing her games. That night, the anonymous number texted again. Tomorrow, go to the bar. Ask for Tony. Tell him the truth about the night you won. He's waiting. I stared at the screen, heart racing. For the first time, I saw a way out, if I was brave enough to take it. The bar looked different in daylight, less like a den of ghosts, more like a place where answers might actually live. I slipped in unnoticed, the hush of morning a strange comfort compared to the chaos inside my head. The bartender glanced up, and I forced the words past a dry throat. Is Tony here? He said he'd be waiting. She nodded, disappearing into the back. My knee bounced. Every instinct screamed this was a mistake, but I stayed, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Tony emerged, late 40s, heavy-set, with the tired eyes of a man who'd seen too many desperate stories. He wiped his hands on a bar rag and sized me up. You Jake? I nodded. He glanced around, then slid onto the stool next to me. I know why you're here. Sit tight, listen, and don't interrupt. He leaned in, voice low. You know Melissa didn't just run into you that night, right? She's been coming here for weeks, asking about your habits, your lottery tickets, your life. She's got friends on staff. She even tried to bribe one to get your numbers. And that guy she was with, her boyfriend, not ex. They're still together, Jake. He's been helping her, waiting for the payout. My world spun, nausea and fury colliding in my gut. Tony went on. Look, I liked you. You were decent, never made trouble. When you won, she lost it. She thought she'd missed her shot. Now she's back, but it's all about the money. She doesn't love you, man. She loves what you have. He slid a USB drive across the bar. There's proof, messages, recordings. You need to see for yourself. I took it, knuckles white. Why help me? Tony shrugged. Some people deserve to know the truth, even if it hurts. As I left, my phone buzzed with another message from the unknown number. Now you know. What will you do next? The world outside was blindingly bright. I finally saw my future, no longer Melissa's prize, but my own person. But the hardest confrontation was still ahead. I spent the night in a daze, Tony's USB drive burning a hole in my pocket. The files were worse than I imagined. Voicemails of Melissa laughing about her loser ex, text threads planning how she'd get close to me again, audio of her boyfriend coaching her on how to play me for sympathy and cash. Every word stabbed at old wounds I thought were healing. By sunrise, anger turned into clarity. I wasn't the same man Melissa walked all over. I wouldn't be a victim again. Melissa texted just after 8. Breakfast at mine? I made pancakes, smiley face. For the first time, I didn't hesitate. I replied, be there soon. She opened the door in one of my old shirts, face soft and hopeful. You look good, she purred. I've missed this. I walked past her, plugging Tony's USB into her laptop. The screen flickered to life, messages and recordings scrolling out one after another. Melissa's smile faltered, then vanished entirely. Her voice turned ice cold. Where did you get this? I stared her down. Does it matter? I know everything. The boyfriend, the spying, the whole plan to cash in on my win. She tried to recover, crocodile tears brimming. Jake, you have to understand, I was desperate. I lost everything after we split. I just wanted a fresh start. I cut her off. You wanted a payout. You didn't care who you hurt. She snapped then, anger flaring. Fine. You were nothing until you got lucky. You'll always be a loser without someone telling you what to do. I smiled, steady, unbroken for the first time. Not anymore, Melissa. My phone buzzed again. The anonymous number. Proud of you. It's time for her to face the consequences. But are you ready for what comes next? As I left, Melissa called after me, voice ragged. You'll regret this, Jake. The world loves a redemption story, but it loves a scandal more. For the first time, I didn't care what the world thought. I was finally ready to live for myself. The fallout was immediate. That afternoon, Melissa's boyfriend blew up my phone. Threats, accusations, desperate pleas to make it all go away. When I refused to answer, he turned to social media, painting himself as the wrong party. Melissa followed suit, posting teary selfies and dramatic claims that I'd stolen her second chance. Screenshots of private messages, taken out of context, spread like wildfire. The tabloids pounced. Headlines screamed, lottery losers, ex exposed, and revenge or redemption. Friends and strangers alike picked sides online. Some called me a hero. Others painted me as a heartless jerk. Even my mother hesitated before calling. Jake, are you sure you're safe? Maybe just let it blow over. But the one constant was Chris. He stood beside me, grinning through the chaos. You did the right thing, man. No more letting people use you. Meanwhile, Tony's USB drive found its way to the media. Reporters dug up Melissa's old insults, replayed clips of her mocking me at the grocery store, and contrasted them with my stunned, joyful face on lottery night. The world finally saw both sides, and it wasn't the story she wanted. Melissa tried calling, tried threatening, tried begging. I can make this stop, Jake. Just say we're working things out. Give them a happy ending. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Late one night, I got another message from the unknown number. Now that the world's watching, who are you really? The man who got lucky, or the man who earned his freedom? I realized the next step was mine alone. Money, revenge, and validation wouldn't heal the old scars. Only I could do that. So I drafted a post, my side, and my words. No drama. No mudslinging. Just the truth. As I hit publish, I felt the last of Melissa's hold slip away. But a new question echoed. What does a winner do when there's nothing left to prove? My story went viral overnight. People shared it far and wide, some praising my honesty, others dissecting every sentence. I ignored the noise. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. No more games, no more pretending. The world could think what it wanted. I knew who I was. Melissa tried a new tactic, an open apology video. She sobbed on camera, blaming the pressure, begging for understanding, hinting she'd forgive me someday if I just called her back. Her supporters urged me to reconcile, but the mask had slipped, and I wasn't putting it back on for anyone. I started building a new routine, met with a financial planner, donated quietly to causes that mattered to me, walked with Chris in the evenings, learning to enjoy silence again. Even bought myself a small apartment, the first place I'd ever owned just for me. The more distance I put between myself and Melissa, the clearer everything became. She texted less and less, her online drama losing steam. My brother laughed one morning as we read the latest headline. Lottery winner ghosts X, focuses on charity. For once, the world was rooting for me. Then, one afternoon, I found a letter in my mailbox, handwritten, no return address. Jake, everyone wants something from you. I never did. Remember who you are, not what you've won. Don't let your story end with revenge. Let it start with freedom. T. I stared at the signature. Tony? Or just someone who understood. Either way, the message struck home. That evening, I took out my old lottery ticket and burned it, watching the ashes swirl away. I didn't need it anymore. Not as proof, not as a weapon, not as a crutch. For the first time, the future was mine. But part of me wondered, if I finally closed the book on Melissa, what new story could I write? Freedom tasted strange at first, too quiet, almost lonely, like the empty pages of a new journal daring me to start fresh. Without Melissa's drama or the chaos of sudden wealth, life slowed down in unexpected ways. I filled the silence with little routines, reading at sunrise, cooking real meals, letting Chris drag me out to meet new people. I even started volunteering at a local youth center, the way I always said I would someday. The media frenzy faded, replaced by local curiosity and cautious admiration. People stopped me on the street, not to ask about the money, but to thank me for telling the truth, for showing it was possible to stand up and walk away. For the first time, my story wasn't about Melissa. It wasn't about revenge. It was about finding something that mattered after loss. Chris noticed the change. You seem lighter, man. Like you finally shook her off. I grinned. Maybe I just stopped chasing someone else's idea of happiness. But life has a way of testing you, even when you think you're in the clear. Melissa's old circle tried reaching out, some wanting apologies, others hoping for favors. I drew my lines, polite, firm, unwilling to let the past claim even a minute more of my new life. One day, as I helped clean up after a youth basketball game, a kid tugged at my sleeve. You really win the lottery, mister? Are you rich now? I laughed. I won, yeah, but I'm still figuring out what to do with it. Maybe I'll help out here more. He grinned. My mom says you're not a loser. I knelt to his level, feeling the truth in my bones. Neither are you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That night, I realized my story was no longer about what I'd lost or what Melissa thought of me. It was about the life I was building, one honest day at a time. But I knew the past had one last loose thread, and eventually, I'd have to tie it off for good. Weeks passed, each one better than the last. I found peace in places I'd never looked before. Morning coffee on my tiny balcony, the quiet hum of the city, the comfort of being unknown again. People stopped recognizing me as the lottery guy. I was just Jake, volunteer, neighbor, brother. But the final shadow lingered, Melissa. She'd vanished from headlines, stopped posting about us, even moved out of her apartment without a word. Part of me felt relief. Another part wondered if closure was possible, or even necessary. One Saturday afternoon, I was sorting through old papers when the doorbell rang. To my surprise, Melissa stood there, hair pulled back, makeup free, looking more real than I'd ever seen her. I'm not here to fight, she said quietly, or to ask for anything. I just needed to say sorry. I lost myself after we broke up. I blamed you for everything, because it was easier than looking at myself. She handed me a small envelope. Inside was a letter, her handwriting, shaky but sincere, admitting to the lies, the manipulation, even the plan with her boyfriend. I know I can't fix what I did. I just want you to know I'm getting help. I hope you find real happiness, Jake. You deserve it. For a moment, all the old pain flickered, then faded. I searched her eyes for some trick, but there was nothing but exhaustion and regret. I forgive you, I said. Not for her, but for myself. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and left without another word. I closed the door and sat with her letter for a long time. The chapter was truly over. No more grudges, no more ghosts. As the sun set, Chris called, inviting me over for dinner. You coming? Yeah. I smiled. I'll bring dessert. It was time to live, fully, finally, without looking back. The days that followed felt brand new, like waking up after a long illness, every breath a little easier. Melissa's apology didn't erase the past, but it freed me from carrying it. I started spending more time with Chris, helping out at the youth center, even signing up for classes I'd always put off. People still asked about the lottery sometimes, but the questions didn't sting. My story had changed. One afternoon, I found myself at the same grocery store where Melissa once humiliated me. This time, I walked the aisles with my head high, nodding to neighbors who greeted me with real warmth. At the register, the clerk smiled. You're the guy who helps out with the kids, right? Yeah, I said, just doing what I can. Afterwards, I treated myself to a coffee and sat outside, letting the sun soak into my skin. I scrolled through old photos, some with Melissa, most without. For the first time, I didn't feel angry or sad. I felt grateful. For the pain that made me grow, for the second chances, for the simple victories I'd almost missed while chasing someone else's approval. Chris joined me, dropping a cupcake on the table. Celebrating something? I shrugged, grinning. Just life. He clapped me on the back. You deserve it, man. All of it. That night, I wrote a note in my journal, something I'd never thought possible when all this began. I am not a loser. I am not what was done to me. I am who I choose to become. The final message from the unknown number arrived at midnight. You made it, Jake. Don't forget, real luck is living true. For once, I believed it. But the last page of my old story was about to close. One more step, and the future would be all mine. On the anniversary of my lottery win, I woke before sunrise, strangely calm. No TV interviews, no drama, just the city stirring, birdsong through my open window. I made breakfast and watched the light creep across my new apartment. Every detail a reminder that this life was mine, built on my choices, not luck or someone else's cruelty. Chris called early, insisting I come celebrate. Not the money, he joked. Just the fact that you're actually happy for once. On my way over, I passed the old bar where I'd celebrated that fateful night. For a moment, I hesitated, thinking of Tony and the bartender who gave me the truth when I needed it most. I ducked inside, ordered a coffee, and left a generous tip with a note. Thanks for helping me see clearly. At Chris's place, friends gathered, some new, some old, all genuine. We laughed, grilled burgers on the balcony, and toasted to beginnings, not endings. As evening fell, I wandered home alone, stopping to watch kids play ball in the park. One waved, shouting, "Hey, lottery guy, are you still lucky?" I grinned, waving back. Luckiest guy I know. But deep down, I knew luck had nothing to do with it anymore. That night, I sat on my balcony, journal in hand, and wrote the last line. Today, I finally lived for me. No more proving myself. No more chasing the past. I was free. Whatever came next would be on my own terms.